So you've decided that executing Roth conversions is a good idea for your retirement. Great. Now what? Maybe you've already determined the amount that you want to convert this year. That's good. Now exactly when should you convert it? Right now? At the end of the year? A little bit each month? Does it even matter? Well, it does matter, and it can make a big difference. Here's what I'd recommend. Welcome back to the smartest financial minds on YouTube. Now, as a certified financial planner helping hundreds of clients through the Roth conversion process, we've had to figure out what makes the most sense here. What's going to give our clients the best chance to save the most in legally avoidable taxes, and exactly when you convert and how much play a big role in that. Simplistically put, the best time to convert is at the market's low point for the year. Now, to best understand why this is, it helps to think of what you're converting in terms of ETF or stock shares rather than a dollar amount. Because $100,000 is $100,000, right? Well, in this case, not exactly. Let's consider the case of rule of thumb Ronnie, Savvy Steve, and Lazy Larry. Ronnie, Steve, and Larry all have $1 million in a traditional IRA, and they've all thoughtfully determined that a $100,000 Roth conversion this year would be best for their long-term tax planning. For simplicity's sake, it would never really be like this in reality, but let's say that all of their money is in a single ETF. Just to make this easy, the concepts here will still hold true. In January, that ETF is selling at $100 per share. Ronnie follows a simple rule of thumb to just convert it at the beginning of the year, because usually the market trends upward over time. He converts all $100,000 out of his traditional IRA and into his Roth in January. That's 1,000 shares that he's able to convert. Great. Steve, on the other hand, feels the market has been rather volatile, and along with some other indicators decides the market is in a rather precarious position, so he decides to wait. The market proceeds to fall, and it's not until July that things start to calm down. The price per share of that same ETF is now only $66 per share. Steve decides that now is the time to convert that $100,000. It's still $100,000, but at $66 per share, he now has roughly 1,500 shares, 50% more shares of that same ETF in his Roth IRA. Now the market continues to fluctuate, even moving down a little more before starting to climb once again. And let's say that at the end of the year, it's recovered and just slightly surpassed where it started the year. In December, that same ETF is selling for $111 per share. Some financial planners will just put off the conversion decision until December. And more often than not, that's probably the worst of all of these options, but anyway, let's see. That's where Lazy Larry finds himself. He converts his $100,000 in December, leaving him with only 900 shares on that ETF in his Roth IRA. All three of these characters will have a $100,000 taxable Roth conversion this year, right? So the same tax implications for each of them. Yet the number of shares and consequently end-of-year values in their Roth IRAs will differ greatly. Lazy Larry only has 900 shares in his Roth, worth $100,000. Rule of thumb Ronnie has 1,000 shares in his Roth IRA, worth $111,000. While Savvy Steve has roughly 1,500 shares in his Roth IRA, worth more than $166,000. That's such a big difference between all of them. So be like Savvy Steve. Now, of course, the challenge is we don't know exactly when the market will be at its low point for the year. So what do we do? Well, this used to be much easier for us. Before the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act eliminated this rule, you used to be able to do what is known as a recharacterization. And we may come back to this at some point in the future, so it's worth understanding. It's also helpful so that you can know if your wealth advisor is adapting to tax law changes or if they're just going with old rules of thumb, because that's what used to make sense. You see, it used to be really easy. You could just convert everything you wanted for that year early in the year and then reevaluate later. If the market went up throughout the year, you would keep the money in the Roth. But if they went down, you were allowed to recharacterize those funds back into the traditional IRA and then convert again. you effectively had 2 whacks at it as long as it was within a 21-month window. So January of one year through October of the following year. But you can't do that anymore. With today's rules, a Roth conversion is irrevocable. It's a one-way switch. That leaves you with this dilemma. If you convert at the beginning of the year, and then the market proceeds to fall like it did in 2022, for example, you're stuck saying, well, shoot, I converted $100,000 at the beginning of this year. I'm getting taxed on that $100,000, but now it's only worth like $80,000. I kind of regret this. But if you just wait until the end of the year, just to be safe, and the market pretty much just climbs the whole year like it did in 2023, you end up getting to convert less on a per share basis. If you're trying to do these conversions yourself, a good way to think about this is in a similar context to how many people like to think about contributing a large lump sum over time to an investment account instead of all at once. Because what if the market crashes right after I dump it all in? So the solution is that you dollar cost average. You contribute a relatively small amount every month or every quarter until the whole sum is ultimately invested. In the same way that dollar cost averaging can make sense for you when investing, conversion cost averaging can make sense for you when converting a relatively large amount over the course of a year. So instead of making the bet at the beginning of the year and hoping the market doesn't go down, or making the bet at the end of the year and hoping the market doesn't go up, you can average in. Let's up your hypothetical conversion amount here for easy math. You're going to convert more than Ronnie, Steve, or Larry. Nice. Let's say you've decided that it makes sense for you to convert $120,000 this year. You could convert $60,000 at the beginning of the year and another $60,000 at the end. You could decide to do $30,000 at the end or beginning of each quarter, or you could do $10,000 each month. Of course, there is paperwork involved, so dealing with that every single month might not be how you want to spend your retirement. All things are worth weighing here. The point is, Roth conversions are not all or nothing in a given year. You can do partial conversions throughout the year, however much you need in order to mitigate that risk of regret or frustration that can come from the inevitable vicissitudes of the market. And if you're working with a wealth advisor who pays attention to market sentiment, you might be able to craft a strategy that is even more thoughtful than just a blind conversion cost averaging strategy. We can use some of the broad market indicators that we utilize for our tactical asset allocation strategies that we explore in detail in this video to help us determine the optimal times based on historic probabilities to convert throughout the year. Now, to further complicate this matter, for some, the timing of their Roth conversions also has to do with the fact that they're not 100% sure just how much they're going to want to convert this year, right? Maybe we work together at the beginning of the year, or you're figuring this out on your own and determine that you'd like to convert somewhere around 100,000 this year, but you're not exactly sure how much you're going to want it to be. Maybe we've come up with a few contingencies. Maybe your deductions might come in a little higher this year, so we want to wait for the final total there, as that might allow you to convert a little bit more this year. Maybe you have uncertain bonuses that may or may not come in. You have variable income, so it can be difficult to know exactly where you're going to fall in a tax bracket, which we need to determine what the optimal conversion amount will be. Or we don't know what certain mutual fund distributions might be. The list goes on, but hopefully you get the idea. Most early retirees, when Roth conversions usually make the most sense, don't have too many variables like this to consider, but some do. So flexibility here is important. To address this issue, instead of converting all or none, or precisely evenly, you can use a barbelling strategy. At the extreme, your contributions throughout the year are going to look like a barbell. A big contribution up front, what you know that you can convert, mostly nothing in the middle, and then some more at the end, based on however your year went, how all those variables that we talked about. What would be even better would be for you to determine that bare minimum that you know you're going to want to convert no matter what, and convert that whenever it makes the most sense throughout the year, as we've just been discussing, but likely some, if not all of that amount in the earlier months of the year. And then, as you have more detailed financial information as the calendar year, the taxable year, is coming to a close, you can finalize your Roth conversion calculations and settle up to the total conversion amount that you conclude is going to make the most sense in the later months of the year, October, November, December. Understand exactly how much and when to make these partial Roth conversions we're talking about here, You should consider the example of wise Wendy and how she used this strategy to stay in the 12% tax bracket throughout her retirement and turn part of her $700,000 traditional IRA into a $6 million Roth IRA by the end of her life. I explain how she's able to do it in this video. Be like wise Wendy, not desperate Dave. You'll see what I mean when you get there. I'll see you there.